What happens when one of Hollywood's most unpredictable actors completely loses his cool on live television? In just 17 seconds, Billy Bob Thornton went from guest to absolute chaos, and what he said to Joy Behar before getting kicked off The View left everyone in that studio absolutely stunned. Before we jump into this insane confrontation, hit that subscribe button right now. We post daily videos exposing Hollywood's darkest scandals, the explosive moments they don't want you to see, and the confrontations that make celebrities wish they could turn back time. You don't want to miss this. Last night on The View, what started as a conversation about Billy Bob Thornton's latest project turned into one of the most explosive and uncomfortable moments in the show's entire history. The tension in that studio went from 0 to absolutely nuclear in minutes. And by the end, security was involved and Billy Bob was being escorted out of the building. This wasn't just a disagreement. This was a full-blown meltdown that nobody saw coming. Billy Bob Thornton walked onto the View set with that signature intensity he's known for, that edge that always makes you feel like something unpredictable might happen at any moment. The audience clapped politely as he made his way to the table, but even from the start, something felt different about his energy. He wasn't doing the usual celebrity smile and wave, that practiced charm that most actors turn on automatically when they step in front of cameras. He looked serious, almost guarded, his jaw set tight as he sat down across from the panel. His whole vibe was off, like he was already bracing himself for something. The hosts welcomed him with their typical enthusiasm, all smiles and warm greetings, trying to make him feel comfortable. But you could tell Billy Bob wasn't quite matching that energy. He gave short, clipped answers to their initial questions, nodded a lot without much elaboration, and seemed like he was somewhere else mentally. His eyes kept darting around the studio, and he shifted in his seat multiple times, like he couldn't get comfortable. The camera caught all of it. Every uncomfortable moment, every forced smile. Whoopi tried to warm things up by asking about his music, which is usually a safe topic since Billy Bob is passionate about his band and loves talking about his musicianship. He perked up a little bit, talking about some recent recordings they'd done and tour plans they were putting together. His face softened slightly as he described a new song they'd been working on. And for a moment, it seemed like he was relaxing into the conversation. The conversation was flowing okay, nothing spectacular or particularly engaging, but it was working well enough. The audience seemed engaged, leaning forward in their seats. The other hosts were nodding along supportively. And for a few minutes, it looked like this might turn into a decent interview after all. Maybe even a good one, if they kept him talking about music. But then, Joy Behar jumped in with a question that completely changed the trajectory of everything. She leaned forward with this smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, that kind of smile that looks friendly on the surface, but has something sharp underneath it. Her tone shifted from casual to pointed in an instant. "So, Billy Bob, you've been pretty vocal about politics lately on social media. Really vocal, actually. Some of the things you've posted have gotten a lot of attention, stirred up quite a bit of controversy online. Do you ever worry that alienating half your audience might hurt your career? That saying these things publicly might have consequences for your work?" The studio got noticeably quieter. You could feel the energy shift, like someone had sucked some of the air out of the room. Billy Bob's face changed instantly, like a switch had been flipped. His jaw tightened visibly. You could see the muscles working beneath his skin, and his eyes narrowed as he stared directly at Joy. The friendly mask he'd been trying to maintain completely dropped. You could see him processing what she'd just said, running through his options, deciding how to respond to what was clearly an attack disguised as a question. Alienating, Billy Bob repeated slowly, letting the word hang in the air between them. Is that what you think I'm doing? Speaking my mind honestly is alienating people. Having opinions and expressing them is somehow wrong? Joy shrugged, still wearing that smile that was starting to look more like a smirk. I'm just saying, when you post controversial political opinions, strong opinions that go against what a lot of people believe, you're going to upset some people. That's just reality. That's how it works. And in Hollywood especially, that can have real consequences for your career. Studios pay attention to this stuff. Audiences pay attention. Billy Bob shifted in his seat, his whole body language changing from guarded to defensive to outright aggressive. Controversial. There's that word again. Everything's controversial now if it doesn't match exactly what certain people want to hear, what they've decided is acceptable. I have opinions. I express them. That's called being honest. That's called integrity. But don't you think celebrities have a responsibility to be careful about what they say? Joy pressed, clearly not planning to let this go. You have a platform. A big platform. Millions of people follow you. People look up to you. Don't you think you should use that platform responsibly? Don't you think you owe it to your fans to think before you post? Billy Bob let out a short, harsh laugh that had zero humor in it. Responsibly. And who gets to decide what's responsible? Who's the judge of that? You? The View? The people on Twitter who get mad about everything and want to cancel everyone?
Some committee somewhere that decides what opinions are acceptable. The tension was building now, getting thicker with each exchange. The other hosts were exchanging nervous glances, clearly sensing this was heading somewhere uncomfortable, somewhere they might not be able to pull back from. Whoopi tried to jump in to redirect the conversation to safer ground, but Joy wasn't done, not even close. I'm just saying that when you have influence, when you have the kind of reach that you have, you need to think about the impact of your words, Joy said, her tone getting sharper, more accusatory. You can't just say whatever pops into your head without considering the consequences, without thinking about who you might hurt or what damage you might cause. Actually, I can. Billy Bob shot back immediately, his voice rising in volume and intensity. That's kind of the whole point of free speech. That's literally what it means. I don't need permission from you or anyone else to have opinions, and I sure as hell don't need a lecture about responsibility from someone who sits on this show every single day saying whatever they want, attacking people, making judgments, pushing their own agenda. Joy's eyes flashed. We're having political discussions. That's different than posting inflammatory things on social media designed to get attention. Inflammatory, Billy Bob repeated, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Everything I say is inflammatory because you disagree with it. But when you say things, that's just political discussion. Do you hear how hypocritical that sounds? The audience was completely silent now. You could feel the discomfort in the room. This had gone from a pointed question to a real argument in less than 2 minutes. I'm not being hypocritical, Joy fired back, her voice getting louder. I'm pointing out that you have a responsibility as a public figure to think before you speak, to consider how your words affect people. Billy Bob leaned forward, his eyes locked on Joy. You want to talk about responsibility? How about the responsibility to be honest instead of just saying what's popular? How about the responsibility to stand by your beliefs even when people like you try to shame you for having them. Nobody's shaming you, Joy said, but her tone suggested otherwise. We're having a conversation. This isn't a conversation, Billy Bob said, his voice hard. This is an ambush. You brought me here under the pretense of talking about my work, and instead you're using it as an opportunity to attack my character because you don't like my politics. Joy's face flushed red. I'm not attacking your character. I'm questioning your judgment. There's a difference. Is there? Billy Bob's voice was getting louder now, more forceful. Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like you're saying I'm a bad person because I don't think the same way you do, that I'm irresponsible, that I'm hurting people, all because I have different opinions. Whoopi tried again to intervene. Okay, let's take a breath here But Joy cut her off. Billy Bob, I've been doing this show for years. I've interviewed thousands of people, and I can tell you that the ones who are most defensive are usually the ones who know, deep down, that they're wrong. The studio gasped. That was a direct shot, and everyone knew it. Billy Bob's face went from angry to absolutely furious in about 1 second. Are you kidding me right now? Billy Bob's voice thundered through the studio. You're psychoanalyzing me on live television because I won't bow down and admit that you're right. Who the hell do you think you are? I'm someone who cares about the truth, Joy said, her voice rising to match his. And the truth is that your posts have been divisive and hurtful to a lot of people. Divisive and hurtful? Billy Bob laughed bitterly. You want to talk about divisive?
This show is divisive every single day. You sit here and trash people you disagree with, make fun of them, call them names, and that's all fine. But when someone like me expresses a different viewpoint, suddenly that's a problem. Suddenly, that's hurtful. Joy stood up, her hands on the table. We call out dangerous rhetoric and harmful policies. That's not the same as spreading misinformation and stirring up anger for attention. Billy Bob stood up too, both of them now on their feet, facing each other across the table. Misinformation? Everything I've posted is based on facts. Just because you don't like the facts doesn't make them misinformation. Facts? Joy's voice was incredulous. Half of what you post comes from conspiracy websites and fringe sources. That's not facts. That's propaganda. Billy Bob's fists clenched at his sides. Don't you dare stand there and accuse me of spreading propaganda when this show does the exact same thing from your side. At least I'm honest about my biases. At least I don't pretend to be objective while pushing an agenda. We don't push an agenda, Joy said, but even some of the other hosts looked uncomfortable with that claim. We discuss current events from our perspectives. Oh, from your perspectives, Billy Bob said mockingly. That's a nice way of saying you only present one side of every story and attack anyone who dares to disagree. You're not journalists. You're activists pretending to be journalists. Joy's face was bright red now, her voice shaking with anger. How dare you come on our show and insult us like this? We invited you here as a guest, and you're being incredibly disrespectful. Disrespectful? Billy Bob's laugh was harsh and bitter. You want to talk about disrespect? You ambushed me with political questions, attacked my character, called me irresponsible, accused me of spreading misinformation, and now you're playing the victim because I'm defending myself. That's rich. That's really rich. Whoopi stood up now, trying to take control. Okay, I think we need to take a break here. Let's just calm down and… No, Joy interrupted, pointing her finger at Billy Bob. I'm not going to calm down. I'm tired of people like him coming on this show and treating us like we're the enemy just because we ask tough questions. Tough questions? Billy Bob's voice was like thunder. You didn't ask tough questions. You made accusations. You tried to shame me. You tried to paint me as some kind of villain because I won't conform to your worldview. And when I pushed back, you couldn't handle it. I can handle plenty, Joy shot back. What I can't handle is guests who come here with an agenda to attack us. I didn't come here with an agenda, Billy Bob yelled, his voice echoing through the studio. "You're the one who started this. You're the one who turned this into a political interrogation. All I wanted to do was talk about my work, but you couldn't help yourself. You had to go after me." Sarah Haynes tried to jump in. "Maybe we should all just take a step back." "Stay out of this," Joy snapped at her, then turned back to Billy Bob. "You know what your problem is? You can't handle being challenged. You're so used to people agreeing with you in your echo chamber that when someone actually pushes back, you fall apart." Billy Bob took a step toward the table, his whole body radiating anger. "My problem? You want to talk about problems? Your problem is that you think you're always right. That you have some moral authority to judge everyone else. That anyone who disagrees with you must be stupid or evil or both. That's your problem, Joy. You're so convinced of your own righteousness that you can't even see how arrogant and condescending you are." The studio was in complete chaos now. The audience didn't know whether to watch or look away. The other hosts were trying to figure out if they should intervene or let this play out. The cameras were still rolling, capturing every second of this absolute disaster. "Get out!" Joy said suddenly, her voice cold and hard. "Get off this show! You're done here!" Billy Bob stared at her in disbelief. "You're kicking me off?" "Yes," Joy said firmly. "This is our show, and I'm telling you to leave. You've been nothing but hostile and aggressive, and I'm not going to sit here and take it anymore." "Hostile and aggressive?" Billy Bob's laugh was almost maniacal. "That's hilarious coming from you. But you know what? Fine. I don't want to be here anyway. I don't want to sit across from someone who's so filled with self-righteous anger that she can't have an actual conversation without turning it into an attack." "Then go," Joy said, her arms crossed. "The door's right there." Billy Bob reached down and ripped off his microphone, the sound of it tearing away from his shirt loud in the silent studio. "This whole thing has been a joke. You don't want guests, you want targets. People you can gang up on and lecture. Well, I'm not playing that game." Whoopi tried one more time. "Billy Bob, please, let's just—" "Save it," Billy Bob cut her off, his voice still angry but with an edge of exhaustion now. "I've got nothing else to say to any of you. You wanted me gone, Joy? Congratulations, you got your wish." He turned and started walking toward the exit, his footsteps heavy and deliberate. Joy called after him, "Don't come back!" Billy Bob stopped and turned around one last time, his face a mixture of anger and disgust. "Trust me, I won't. I wouldn't come back to this show if you paid me. Have fun in your echo chamber." Security personnel appeared near the exit, not sure if they needed to escort him or if he was leaving on his own. Billy Bob waved them off dismissively. "I'm going, don't worry." As he reached the door, you could hear him mutter something under his breath, though it was clear enough for the microphones to pick up. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. The heavy studio door slammed shut behind him with a boom that seemed to punctuate the entire confrontation. The sound echoed through the space, leaving behind a stunned silence. Joy stood there at the table, her chest heaving with angry breaths, her face still flushed. Whoopi had her hand on Joy's shoulder, trying to calm her down. The other hosts looked shell-shocked, like they couldn't quite believe what had just happened. The audience sat frozen, not sure if they should clap or stay quiet, not sure what they'd just witnessed. Some people were whispering to each other. Others just stared at the empty seat where Billy Bob had been sitting moments before. Joy finally sat down, her hands shaking slightly as she tried to compose herself. "Well," she said, her voice still trembling with emotion, "that was something." The cameras captured it all. The empty chair, the stunned faces, the palpable tension that still hung in the air like smoke. What was supposed to be a simple promotional appearance had turned into one of the most dramatic and explosive confrontations in The View's history. Billy Bob Thornton had been kicked off the show after a fiery argument that escalated beyond anyone's control, and the footage of him walking out that door would be replayed over and over again.